Okay, peace to everyone. Assalamu alaikum to those joining us or watching back. Today we are continuing on Surah 2, which we just kind of gave an overview on last time, and we started to discuss the opening verses. So we seek refuge in God from the outcast devil. In the name of God, the gracious, the merciful. The praises for God, Lord of the beings, the gracious, the merciful. King of the day of judgment, you we serve and you we ask for help. Guide us to the upright path, the path of those who delight upon, not the path of those who angers upon, and not the astray. So, last time just to give a brief summary, we discussed the theme of the surah and kind of analyzed a bit. Discussed how guidance pervades the whole surah. The surah effectively identifies what the correct guidance is after us having prayed for guidance in the previous surah, containing verses such as, say, indeed the guidance of God, that is the guidance. They said, be Jews or Christians that you be guided, rather the religion of Abraham inclined, and he was not of the associators. So the surah consistently is defining that the proper guidance is not just some inherited tradition, it's this Abrahamic religion of monotheism, of submission to God. And to that effect, the surah also details what the Abrahamic religion is in terms of its rights, especially in the latter half. And it starts with, obviously, a case study of the children of Israel after these introductory verses that we're currently covering. So, last time we read a few verses, but we kind of focused on the first two. That's all we had time for. So I guess we'll start with a discussion of the latter couple verses, all the way to verse 5. And I'll start by reading it again in English. I guess I'll do English and Arabic. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alif Lam Mim. ذلك الكتاب لا ريب فيه هدى للمتقين الذين يؤمنون بالغيب ويقيمون الصلاة ومما رزقناهم ينفقون والذين يؤمنون بما أنزل إليك وما أنزل من قبلك وبالآخرة هم يوقنون أولئك على هدى من ربهم وأولئك هم المفلحون. In the name of God, the gracious and merciful, Alif Lam Mim, that is the book in which there is no doubt, a guidance for the wary, who believe in the unseen and stand the prayer, and from what we provided them they spend, and who believe in what was brought down to you, and what was brought down before you, and in the hereafter they are certain. Those are upon guidance from their Lord, and those they are the successful. So once again, I'll give a second to reflect. So this is arguably one of the cases in which God, one of multiple in the Quran, in which God defines who this category of people of the muttaqin, meaning the wary, are, defines what they are basically. We have other instances, but basically in this case we have those who believe in the unseen, stand the prayer, and give of their wealth basically. Those who believe in the revelation, both to you and before you, and they're certain in the hereafter. And it basically equates that to those who are upon guidance. Yeah, StreamYard link is in the chat if somebody wanted to join the stage. Walaikum salam. Got my cat before she attacks my cables. Alhamdulillah, how about you, brother? So for this surah, personally, I really like to think in terms of guidance being the common theme throughout the whole surah, so I try to apply it as much as I can to try to understand the passages. And here God is also just literally defining who is upon guidance and who the book guides at the same time. So the first one is those who believe in the unseen. Now, for me, the belief in the unseen, obviously it's talking about belief in anything that is not visible to you, shall we say, or apparent, or whatever the case, like visually anyway. So if we consider what that entails, for me, I noticed that a minority of things we are able to basically perceive visually and be aware of a minority of things. We have actually a very narrow range of vision just in front of our face. We can only focus on one thing at a time, despite that our vision kind of encompasses about like 180 degrees, but we can only focus on one thing at a time with our gaze. Our brain kind of constructs the rest of the image. So just even visually, I consider how we cannot see how to put it, like our vision is very limited. She's in my cereal.
Well, it basically is an admission of the limited perception and therefore limited capacity, so that you admit that you are not everything is under your control, that you are not all knowledgeable and not all all powerful. So there may be something else, or there is something else that basically outdoes you.
Yes, mashallah, that's much better say than I was managing. But just to kind of take that point further from what you said, most people you find, and those who lack guidance, which are many people, they seem to operate under the assumption that they fully understand their reality and everything. They seem to view that they can see everything. They are fully aware of everything that's going on. They exactly know and perceive, like they understand perfectly. I don't know how to put it exactly. So this acknowledgement that our vision, our senses are limited, is necessary to be upon guidance. And you notice this if you just sort of consider just what we cannot see. Like we cannot see, I mean, you can consider there's billions of people right now. We're completely generally oblivious to what every single one of them is doing. We are oblivious to what's going on behind ourselves. We're oblivious to what's going on outside our house if we're within it. We're oblivious to what's going on in the sky above us, in the earth beneath us. We're oblivious to like a huge, vast cosmos of which we're just a pinpoint. And when you really start to think about it, we're oblivious to so much that we're more oblivious than we are aware. By far, it's not even close. If you consider the unseen and the seen is completely dwarfed by the unseen. And of course, also the past, you could say, is in a sense in the unseen, the future, even more so in the unseen. The God himself is in the unseen, arguably, as well as the angels and what have you. Alaikum salam.
I do prefer to render yuqimuna salah or aqim salah as upholding or maintaining the connection, but prayer is obviously ritual prayer being one of the recommended ways of maintaining the connection with God or maintaining the connection in general. It does not say prayer to God or anything. You see? So if you see it as uphold the connection or maintain the connection with the unseen. So it's not that you only accept or admit that it exists, but it also is that you take it into consideration. And then only will the Quran be talking about how, about the particularities of the like, or how to hold on to the rope of God, or how to communicate with God, and so on.
Interesting. And kind of on the next ones, the standing of the prayer, the spending of what you are provided. They're both evidence of guidance if done properly, because you can consider the ones who are upon misguidance, who are not guided. To them, it's like irrational. Why would you spend of your own wealth? Why would you decrease your net worth? And also similarly, why would you sacrifice your own time, your own productivity, I don't know, to pray or humble yourself to God, or whatever the case? So to them, it's like they don't understand what's the benefit. But to a believer, they can see why humbling oneself to God with respect to one's wealth, with respect to one's position, is like a true favor and a true, it's worth doing per se. So they do it.
Salam.
Walaikum salam.
You can hear me, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's like In chapter 2, verse 2, it gives a sign of what Allah counts as what leads to belief. So it's like having God consciousness, right? That leads to the belief, and that protects you from disbelief. So all disbelievers, before they accepted Prophet Muhammad, they had to like have fear of God. So like the fear of God comes after belief. Right? So it shows you that if people are to be guided, um, it's not just like giving facts, like they actually have to emotionally engage with God before accepting the Quran. You know, that it says that is the book. There is no doubt about it. A guide for those mindful of God. Uh,
So your point is basically that one must be wary of God in order to be guided.
yeah, I believe, or at least like um, to be wary of God is one of the essentials to understand the guidance of the Quran.
Yeah, we had made this point last time as well, and we definitely agree with you. It's like because the alternative is presented just later or getting there. Indeed, those who denied, it's the same. If you warn them or you do not warn them, they do not believe. So the alternative of being wary and therefore guided when it comes to you, or when the book comes to you, shall we say, when the guidance comes to you, you're guided if you're wary. But if you deny, on the other hand, you throw caution away, you throw like wariness, carefulness, or awareness away. And as a result, when the guidance comes to you, you simply just dismiss it. So this is like the opposite of being dismissive.
Mhm,
Therefore, you can be guided by it if you're not of a dismissive character.
mhm. You can also see like in verse 3, it says they believe in the unseen. They it says aqimus salah and donate from what we have provided for them. So you know the donation thing, like it reminds me of Surah Balad, where it basically says that like it mentions like greedy disbelievers, and then it says that like do they not know God watches them? And then it says like they didn't go down the steep path, and then it mentions a bunch of ethics to do with how you treat the poor and things like that. So this steep path is already given from chapter 2, from the beginning, like as if it was like necessary to have a care for the poor, to like unlock this like this kind of ease in accepting the Quran, like allowing for you to realize that yeah, we should be um keeping the poor in check and feeding the needy.
Yeah, and also God uses the wording of from what we've provided them they spend. So it's also pointing out how the person recognizes that their wealth is not their own, but rather God has provided this. Therefore, it's not their own wealth, it's God's wealth, which they are spending as He would instruct it. So it's an acknowledgement and a recognition of the source of the wealth, which is influencing what one does with it, rather than those who are not guided, who just see it as their own net worth, their own credit, which why would they give of that?
Yeah, and also like I also see like the aqimu salah as like this thing that protects you from sinning, like it protects you from sinning, and because it protects you from sinning, it's also one of the ways to believe, or like increase in belief.
So then we get to the belief in what was brought down to you and what was brought down before you, which is such like the Quran, the previous scriptures, basically the message of worshiping God alone that's been consistently revealed. So this is evidence of guidance because I find that a person believes based on the message. They believe based on the truth. So it does not matter to them whether the scripture was to their community or to a prior community. Later it talks about the children of Israel, who some of them deny on account of the scripture being sent down to a different community external to theirs. But that's an evidence of misguidance, where the person judges by false metrics. In this case, the person is simply judging by the message, its contents. Therefore, they believe both in what was sent down to you and what was sent down before you. Yeah, dismissing a message based on its source is known as the genetic fallacy. Dismissing an argument based on its origin. Yeah.
But wait, wouldn't it be something else? How can you dismiss a message from God, even regardless of what kind of community it was sent down? Because genetic fallacy is like whether it's a message from God or from someone else. Let's say if Satan's talking to you and you dismiss his message, even though he might be truthful, but you dismiss his messages because it's a Satan.
He's not truthful though in his communication per se, because then he would
Okay, but
be
for
failing his
example,
role.
meaning like genetic fallacy is like the origin of the message is not like is Satan, is not to who he was talking to, is not the addressee.
Yes, I see what your point is. Is genetic with respect to the community that is, or the messenger, that source, not the original source of God. Because here it's saying they believe in what was brought down to you and what was brought down to other than you, before you. So they're not believing based on the messenger, his ethnicity, his community. They're believing based on the truth. So it doesn't matter which community it came to. And this is
All right,
actually
wouldn't it be like an attribution fallacy type or attribution error kind of, because they attribute it to the messenger and then they criticize the messenger?
something like that, I guess. But later this is consistent with the whole surah, because later it talks about they said, be Jews or Christians that you may be guided. Rather, the religion of Abraham inclined, and he was not of the associators. So God is repeatedly dismantling the idea that guidance is tied to a community. Rather, it's tied to a position which was embodied by Abraham, which happens to be before those communities as a figure. Secondly, like they say, later they say, we believe in the children of Israel, we believe in what was revealed to us.
and they deny what is after it, while it is the truth confirming what is with them. Say, why did you kill the prophets of God before if you were believers? And then also making that famous verse, making distinguishment between the messengers, is another case of this, or related to this, because we're told to do the exact opposite. And this is also at the end of the surah and the middle, where we are told to say, قُولُوا آمَنَا بِمَا أُنزِلَ علينا وما أنزل على إبراهيم وإسماعيل وإسحاق ويعقوب والأسباط وما أوتي موسى وعيسى والنبيون من ربهم. Basically, say we believe in what was sent down to Abraham and Isaac and Ismail, I guess, and Isaac and Jacob and the descendants, and what was given to Moses and what was given to Jesus. We do not separate between any of them, and we are submitters to him. And now the being certain in the hereafter, I find connects to, so if we consider guidance is to know where you are, where you're coming from, where you're going, directionally to be aware, such as in a desert, you can be either upon guidance or you can be upon dalala, you can be lost, astray, where you don't know where you are, don't know how to get out of the desert. Similarly, in the woods, I usually give these examples. You can be lost in the woods and have no idea where you are, how to get out, where you're going, etc. Or you can know exactly where you are, which path to follow, how to get out, where you came from. That would be the difference between guidance and astrayness. So guidance, really, in all cases, guidance, to really be guidance, you need to know your destination. That's the most important thing, because that's what you're heading towards. So how can you be guided if you don't know your destination or how to get there? So the hereafter is exactly that. It's the destination. Therefore, it's required for guidance. So it just follows that those are upon guidance if they are certain about their destination.
Precisely, are you talking about believing in God and knowing that we will all return to God?
Right. Because imagine you acknowledge that you came from God, God created you, but you don't acknowledge you are going to return to God. And actually some people do that functionally or what's the word? Doctrinally.
This is when you say like the going faith as in I believe in God and the last day literally means I believe in like that I came from God and that I'm going to God is the source which I came from, and I am returning to him on the day of judgment. So basically that's what it entails.
Yep. And that's so important because based on that, it literally affects your current behavior, your current life. That's why it's of such vital importance throughout the whole Quran, belief in the hereafter. Because when you acknowledge your destination, then you actively work towards it, like in the sense of guidance. You now know where you're going, therefore you travel in that direction.
I could be wrong. Sorry, sister,
just
go ahead.
Just to finish it, so there's a difference between just believing in God and believing in God on the final day, which is emphasized throughout the Quran. Go ahead.
Yeah, no problem. I mean, I could be wrong here, but could we say that like verse 4 is like basically talking about like Islam, like believing that Islam always existed?
Basically, I find that acceptable because they believe in what was brought down to you, which is the message of submission, and what was brought down before you, which is the message of submission. So it works.
Yeah. You mentioned that verse as well, like chapter 3 verse uh chapter 3 verse 84. So if you go from chapter 3 verse 81 onwards, right, it mentions the covenant of prophets, and it says like what I gave you from Kitab and Hikmah, then there comes to you a messenger confirming what you have. You must believe in him and support him. So the covenant of prophets, I don't take it as like covenant from prophets. I take it as like covenant of prophets, meaning like criteria of prophethood, and then because the verse mentions like a criteria of prophethood, like this like criteria. If Jews read this and they know like the Torah, they would understand this to come from Deuteronomy. If you look at Deuteronomy, the it mentions like the legals and ethics of Moses. You could say Kitab and Hikmah of Moses. And then from that point onwards, every messenger had to bring people back to that covenant, which was basically their religion. Like their religion was Kitab and Hikmah, which produced their religion. The mitzvot, the legals and ethics of Moses. Um, so when the Quran keeps saying what is with them, it is basically referring to that according to 381. And it created Islam, you could say, or a way of submission. So it's interesting how the Quran like links these things, like, you know, every messenger after Moses, you know, they bring people to this religion of like legals and ethics. What is revealed to you? What's been revealed before you is Islam, basically. And then like even after 381, it says, do they desire a way other than Allah's religion? Allah's deen, sorry. Um, and then it says, we believe in Allah, what was being revealed to us, was being revealed to Abraham, Ishmael, Isaac, Jacob, and his descendants.
Yes, but that verse also did occur in this surah, or that phrase. I was actually referencing it from this surah.
Oh, yeah. It does come in chapter 2. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Once again, what's the recipe for prosperity?
You're saying it's a recipe for prosperity?
Well, it is. So, mindfulness of God, belief in the unseen, upholding the prayer, spending from what God provided for them, belief in the revelation and previous instances of the revelation from God and previous instances of the revelation from God, and firm faith in the hereafter. Just trying to think if they're all complementary or is there any overlap or redundancy here, but At first glance, seems like those are all essential components. Hence, that makes it a recipe.
I guess the hereafter is technically the unseen, part of the unseen, so. But it doesn't necessitate like this complete overlap or like just because one is found in the other, but God is emphasizing the importance of each of them as distinct categories.
By the way, would you say that like verse 5 is basically like if I was to like section the chapter, like verse 5 would be like the end of a section, and then verse 6 begins something new, or no?
Basically, yes, though now the next section is complementary to this initial one because it gives, if these are the ones who are upon guidance, now the next one describes the ones who are the opposite. They're not upon guidance.
Yeah.
It deals first with the deniers and then with the hypocrites, basically, without naming them.
Yeah.
And just kind of a point I would make, I guess, is that you cannot, I would argue, you cannot be successful without guidance, because that would be like somebody who doesn't know why they're there, where they're going, where they came from, what to do, even. So somebody who lacks all of those is somebody who lacks guidance completely, who's completely astray. Therefore, success is simply impossible. It's contradictory to their state.
You know, I mentioned this like yesterday. Like you know how like the Quran was revealed progressively, right? So I've been thinking that like since that's the case, then then the believers still had a religion without having the whole Quran. So like the fact that like even like a small section was still able to make the believers continue, it means that like even like these small sections could have been like enough at a specific point. You know, like what excuse do we have?
Yes, subhanAllah, that's a really good point. I had made a similar point last time, where it's like if you just read Surah 2 in isolation, the whole Surah, it like gives you enough to practice your entire religion, almost like to perfection, including all the basic rights of the religion, of the Abrahamic religion, of submission. And this one is believed to have been revealed at the earliest sort of portion of the Medinan period, so they got this one presumably early, allowing them to practice the basic religion, even though there was more like legalistic stuff later.
And in terms of doctrine, it starts with this, with that recipe, as I called it. But the last verse has almost, functionally a similar list to like believers. They believe in God, His angels, His books, His messengers, and the final return in the end.
So, any other thoughts up to verse 5? So I find, I'll just make one more point. There's a bit of a circularity to it, which is clearly intentional, where the book is a guidance for those who do these things, and those are upon guidance from their Lord. So it's almost as if to suggest the book is a guidance for those who are upon guidance. Which I find, so I would analyze it a couple ways. Number one, if you're upon guidance, the book is a guidance for you, meaning it increases you in guidance. Such as, for instance, God says, وَزَادَّهُمْ how does it go? وَالَّذِينَ اهْتَدَّوْا I believe it says somewhere, وَزَادَ اللَّهُ الَّذِينَ اهْتَدَّوْا هُدًّا. God increases those who are guided in guidance. So that's exactly one of the explanations of the circularity here. If you're upon guidance, it guides you, it increases you, meaning in guidance. Secondly, even if you lack some of the fundamentals of guidance, if you are wary, so to speak, if you're cautious, then when this message comes, you can implement these practices of guidance and then be guided and increased in guidance. So it also does not make like a gate where somebody who lacks guidance can enter, as long as they're willing to be wary, humble, and not dismissive.
I think this is what makes Islam a middle way, or the balanced way. So on the one hand, your faith dictates your deeds, but on the other hand, and you sort of reveal your faith, or verify your faith by means of your deeds, and that increases you in faith. And on the other hand, your deeds have to be substantiated by your faith, and you know say faith and deeds mutually increase each other. I don't know if I managed to explain myself correctly.
Yeah, I get it, and I agree.
As in, you might be lacking certain aspects of either, and then while striving, while staying on the path, you get increased in guidance by means of your faith and certainty, and also by means of what you're doing.
There's a point where God says literally, Surah 10, I believe, towards the beginning, الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا يَهْدِيهِمْ وَاللَّهُ بِإِيمَانِهِمْ, I believe. So God guides those who believed by their belief.
Sorry, which verse? What do you say?
I'll just pull it up on Surah 10. God guides those who believe by their belief.
Oh, there is verse 9.
Right. Indeed, those who believe and work righteousness guides them, their Lord, by their belief.
Yeah.
You see the translation difference, بِإِيمَانِهِمْ, and the translation is because of their faith, but it's literally like in regard to their faith or by means of their faith.
I think there's an echo, but I don't know if it's just me.
Musa has to mute his oh my god, what am I saying? Musa has to mute his mic every time someone else speaks.
Yeah, so it probably is working well, right? I assume, unless we're kind of like going back and forth and I don't have time to mute it.
For me, it's not that bad, but I don't know.
Yeah. Do you have like a cancellation somewhere possibly that could be possibly set up?
I turned it off because it was messing the mic quality.
I see. Um, like just like quickly, like one more thing, um, like this is just like just food for thought that like okay if like the Quran at a point like the religion of Islam was there with Muhammad and the whole Quran still wasn't revealed, then it kind of makes you think that the Quran is actually bigger than it is. Like as in like the Quran's actually really big then. If Islam was there, even with Muhammad, like let's just say that he only got like two surahs at a specific point. Like the religion was still there. So yeah, just food for thought.
Yeah, mashallah.
But also every
So,
surah is a standalone unit, so it does have all the tenets or in a certain aspect, within a certain aspect, tenets of religion.
and for me personally, just you remind me, and connected to what Brother Zardis is saying, like, I already viewed it that every surah is fundamentally communicating the same message of Islam, the same message of submission in a unique way. That's like why each surah has its own theme, its own logical structure. But its logical structure is always arguing the same thing, which is basically the worship of God alone and accountability to God. So, um, so each surah argues the same thing, and therefore the book argues a singular thing across 114 surahs.
You know, I wonder how my life would be. Imagine just practicing chapter 2 of the Quran. Like you would still technically like have Islam in a way, you know.
I think you would have over 90% of, um, like, even over 90% similarity, basically, because it has all the basic rights in this surah, including fasting Ramadan, Hajj, prayer, obviously, zakah, spending of your wealth robustly, divorce laws, um, etc. Just to name a few, leaving a will is mentioned, um, retaliation, a life for a life, rules regarding when you can fight, when not to fight, sacred months. So it actually encompasses, I would assume, over 90%.
And there's something I want to add to this, and you mentioned the unique way through which or in which the surah talks or proclaims the message, and I call it a prism through which the surah gives the message, or a lens. And I would say, in regard to Surah 2, it is basically through the Jews, through the language of Torah. So if you make those corrections to what Jews had, and for example, Surah 3 is about Christians likewise. So if you make those corrections to what Christians had, you will get complete submission.
Interesting. And I think we can read the next couple verses at least. إن الذين كفروا سواء عليهم أنذرتهم أم لم تنذرهم لا يؤمنون ختم الله على قلوبهم وعلى سمعهم وعلى أبصارهم غشاوة ولهم عذاب عظيم. Indeed, those who denied, it is the same upon them if you warn them or you do not warn them, they do not believe. God sealed over their hearts and over their hearings, and over their sights is a cover, and for them is a immense torment. Brother Abu Azaya says that ties right back to guidance, which I'm curious to hear your point further. And also Brother Zain adds, Allah is basically giving a different perspective. Here's the disbeliever's perspective. And then we also get the hypocrite afterwards, I might add. But specifically with guidance for me, somebody who denied is showing extreme evidence of astrayness instead of guidance, which obviously astrayness is the opposite of guidance. So you're literally, yeah, exactly. As in, it matters not if they were warned or not, because they won't trust the warning. They denied the warning. So a warning is something which you, exactly like this last word, an immense punishment. A warning is like, don't touch that pan because that pan's hot, so you'll burn yourself. Don't go there because it won't work out well for you. So you're telling somebody, you're giving someone like directions so that they do not get hurt. Basically, that's how you can simplify the idea of a warning. Don't do this because it'll result badly for you. Now you're telling this to the deniers, and they are, since they're in denial, belief is impossible for them because they, in your warning, because you're saying, don't do this, but they have rejected your message. So it's a extremely like self-harmful thing, which is why it's extremely associated to misguidance, and it's the opposite of guidance, because they're literally being told for their own benefit, don't do this, it'll work out badly for you. It'll be really bad, it'll be an immense punishment. And they are in the state where instead of following that warning and following the guidance and avoiding something that is personally painful for them, they're in the state where they instead just reject you to their own peril.
I think like another guidance that you can get from this verse is that where it says, indeed those who deny it is the same on them if you warn them or not, they won't believe. Sealed God over their hearts and over their hearing and over their sight is a cover, and for them is a torment immense. Like it, like this isn't like this kufr, like this disbelief is like so bad, like this specific disbelief that like God completely cuts you away from from being guided in that moment, so it's like this kufr, like you have a prophet like reciting the Quran, you have signs, but even like you have your own morals, like Surah Shams mentions, like Allah inspired the soul with knowing good and bad, and then you have someone reminding you of that, and then you deny it, and you yourself know that persecution is wrong, but the fact that you deny it, that like there's no return, like Allah didn't make human beings to deny these things, are wrong. So they just become like animals at that point. Like their hearts are sealed, no hearing, no seeing.
Yeah, and it's a direct foil to the initial part, verse 2, where it says the book, basically, in which there is no doubt, a guidance for the wary. So those who are wary, receptive, it guides them. The book itself is not the issue, obviously, there's no doubt in it. Just those who are receptive to it, it guides them. But those who are rejecting, it's impossible to guide them on account of their own rejection. So that's why it becomes the same whether you warn them or you do not warn them. Even the book is flawless, the book has no doubt in it, but it still does not work.
Yeah, but the believers in the book, like they were charitable. Unlike these people, we learned later down that they became persecutors. But with the believers, they actually gave charity. They did the complete opposite. They they showed their humanity and ethics to the poor. And Allah said that if you do these things, then you will find guidance in this book. If you don't, you're going to be blind. So, you know, it's like showing the contrast between helping the poor and then not helping, or even doing worse, persecuting.
You know,
And
even though it is just a side note here, or a small point rather, even though it is considered to be one of the later surahs or a Madani surah, but it's still in the very beginning of the Quran and one of the first verses from the beginning. Uh, and you can clearly see how rendering kafaru, or as disbelieving, or those who disbelieved, it just doesn't hold. Those who disbelieve, they will not believe, then the verse literally loses the sense of it. Those who already disbelieved, they are not going to believe anyway, okay, but it gets an extra dimension of meaning if you understand. So those who deny it, or those who denied it as a matter of fact, denied it as a matter of fact, they are not believing. They are not going to be, they will not be believing at any point.
exactly, I literally have a video coming about this one, which I make the exact, perfectly identical point to what you just said from this verse.
I swear I didn't know.
Yeah. But anyway, yeah, because like it becomes repetitive. So if you read it that way, indeed those who disbelieved, it's the same point. If you warn them or you do not warn them, they do not believe. But here it's when translated as those who denied, it gives the diagnosis. They do not believe because they rejected. Therefore, the book is flawless, the book is guidance. However, they're blocking themselves. They are the obstacle. They have denied, therefore, that's why they don't believe. Then God talks about how He sealed over their senses, basically, mentioning hearts, hearings, sights. So one point you can make is that this is like a vivid imagery of misguidance, somebody who's blind and deaf and has no sense inside them in terms of the heart. Therefore, it's like complete misguidance, complete astrayness. And the punishment doesn't come out of nowhere, the immense punishment, because the fact is you were warning them, they're denying the warning, so the punishment was the object of the warning. The interesting thing is, why warn them? Because they're in a state of denial. So it becomes a sort of fatal paradox where the person is in denial, therefore you warn them that the consequence is a painful punishment, but the warning doesn't benefit them because they're in denial, thus they meet the painful punishment.
I think these are the only two verses. Like, if we take the whole section by section thing, like the first section being about the believers, and the second section is probably going to be verses 6 and 7. And then 8 onwards is about the hypocrites.
To 20, yeah.
We call it a
Any
day.
other?
It's 2 o'clock.
Sorry. Yeah. Any final thoughts or questions?
So in like it's Tuesday, right? Tuesday and Thursday is when you do the Qur'ān studies.
Yes, for you and me, that's correct. For other time zones, it might be a bit different, but it's
Oh, okay.
yeah. And then the 2 weekend days for us. But inshallah, maybe I should just put an announcement on the YouTube page or something so everyone can see the schedule.
Yeah.
So any final thoughts?
No. See you after tomorrow at the same time, inshallah.
Okay. Peace to everyone. Thank you for joining. See you guys next time.
Peace.
Assalamu alaikum.
Peace. So.
Also.